Hello, my little demons. We're back again for another storytime video. I hope that you enjoyed the last one, and if you have any suggestions or feedback, please let me know in the comments below. This video is going to be a bit shorter as I only have permission for 3 stories from the authors this time around. Please show the authors some support by clicking on their stories in the description and giving their stories a like. This video could not be possible without their continued support. Thank you again, and I hope that you enjoy the stories. First story. The title of the story is Not Just a Dream by Chloe Chan, posted June 19th, 2021. I woke up with a start. There were cold beads of sweat on my forehead. My heart was beating out of my chest. Cliché signs of a terrible, violent dream, but mine had been the opposite of that. It was not a meaningless dream. It was a truthful, ominous vision. My alarm clock blinked at me from across the room. 5:57 said the bright red numbers. They stood out against the sage green of my walls. My head throbbed with the blinking of the clock. Of course, it happened in my sleep, but it was no silly fear or hallucination filled with monsters hidden beneath the bed. In dreams, vision blurred at the edges, moving feels like walking through a wall of mud. The voices sounded like they came from underwater. I felt with a chilling uncertainty that it was going to happen, and that it was a warning. I had to get out of here. I leapt right out of my bed as the fogginess of sleep lifted and shot down the stairs, past the corridor, past the kitchen, looking for my mother. She would know what to do. Mothers always did. My head swiveled from left to right until I finally spot her. "Mother!" I nearly slipped as I stopped before her, panting. She looked up, dropping the magazine that she was reading in her lap, eyebrows furrowed. The magazine's cover stung my eyes, oversaturated and way too bright. "What are you doing up this early, darling? It's a weekend. Aren't you sleeping in?" I glanced at the living room clock. 6 a.m. The windows looking outside showed a sky barely even reaching sunrise. "Mother," my voice trembled as my heart kept beating at its rapid pace. "We need to get out of here. It'll be here soon." I looked around me, a cup filled with tea steaming. No lights on, but a lamp, a deck of magazines just like the one that she had been holding. She took a sip from the tea and tilted her head, taking in my ragged state. I had no doubt my hair was a mess. "Are you all right? Did you have a nightmare?" I tried to throw my hands up in the air, but it felt like my arms were not mine to command. "No! Mother! It wasn't a nightmare. I saw it come." She stood from the couch and bent down to put her hands on my shoulders. They were warm from holding the tea. "Sweetheart, slow down. What happened?" She smelled like rose water. I groaned. She didn't believe me. I should just drag her to the car and make her drive us somewhere safe, but then she might think that I was insane. I might be insane, but I was not going to take the risk. I forced my voice to come out calm, despite the roaring in my ears and the wild beating of my heart. I was asleep, but I am sure it was not a dream. I saw everything clear and crisp. In the vision, I woke up to someone screaming help. It was your voice. I couldn't move. And then I don't know who or what it is, but it crept into my room. My alarm clock started ringing, meaning that it was 7 in the morning. "Mother, if we don't leave this house right now, it will come and hunt us down. We have less than an hour." Mother sighed. Her green eyes took on a look that said, "Oh, poor kid. Sweetie, I think you've had a really awful nightmare. I know sometimes dreams seem quite realistic, but I promise you, everything is all right." Was she wearing perfume at 6 in the morning? Why did she smell so strongly of rose water? Didn't she know that I was allergic to roses? They made me sneeze like crazy. What did I have to do to make her understand it was a matter of life and death? We had to leave immediately. I sank to the floor. Despair closed in. Urgency did too. No, Mother! Tears sprang into my eyes and my voice cracked. Please! We have to leave and get somewhere safe. Just believe me. We need to leave. I'm afraid that won't be possible. The sympathy left her voice. She sounded empty, as if it were a robot speaking through her. Her arms dropped to her sides. What? I lifted my head from my hands, the frustrated tears staining my face. Suddenly a thought hit me. My mother always smelled like jasmine. She hated tea, and she only ever drank coffee in the morning. She never read magazines. She had brown eyes. Chills crept up my back. The woman in front of me smiled. You? My voice trailed off. What question could I ask exactly? What did I want to know? Would she even say anything true? In this situation, she was the one in control. Was it even a she? Was it even human? Something close to remorse crept into her eyes, though the saccharine smile did not slip. I wanted to give you a happy last moment, you see, but I must not have gotten the details about her correct. I hoped you would be ignorant as you just woke up. I suppose humans really do have some type of supernatural sixth sense at times. My head felt like it was being deep-fried. What was going on? Where was my mother, and who was this person pretending to be her? I tried to run, but my vision began to blur at the edges. I felt like I was moving through a wall of mud while getting nowhere at all, and her voice sounded like it came from underwater as she said, "You were right, sweetheart. I'm afraid so." She ever so gently placed her hands over my eyes and everything went black. I woke with a start. There were cold beads of sweat on my forehead. My heart was beating out of my chest. Cliché signs of a terrible, violent dream. But mine had been the opposite of that. It was not a meaningless dream. It was a truthful, ominous vision. Second story. The title of this story is What Happened Wednesday Night by Katherine Widdows, posted May 16th, 2021. This story has a trigger warning for arson, injury detail, murder, and suicide. She who blows on the fire will get sparks in her eyes. German proverb. Emily Chester ran her bare toe along the dirty line of grout between the two tiles she had been studying for the last half an hour, head tipped forward, faint smell of sulfur in her nostrils, elbows on knees. The floor felt as hot as the air around her. The tiles were pale cream and both cracked at the corner, forming a grim smile in the floor which taunted her while she considered closing her eyes. But doing that, even for a moment, brought a darkness that bit at her soul. She was not even willing to blink until the dryness of her corneas became too painful to ignore. After a few minutes, the cracked smile was starting to gape into a grin as its sarcastic laughter echoed inside her head. The air was harsh, her throat was raw, her muscles ached, every inch of her skin was sore. The chair she sat on was hard and unforgiving like a rock against her tortured legs. She was stiffening into her bent-over posture, but too stubborn to relieve the discomfort by sitting up straight. "Please, look at me, Emily. I'm begging you. We need to talk about what happened on Wednesday night." Emily drew her chin still closer to her chest and sighed. The other girl's voice sounded familiar, but somehow otherworldly. "Okay, I was hoping it wouldn't come to this, but I know there's one thing you can't resist. The other girl folded her arms onto the table between them and shuffled in her chair. I dare you to look at me. Emily stirred, her head tugged up by the words as she lifted her gaze from the crack in the floor with some relief. The eyes staring back at her were watercolor green, sunken into dark sockets, setting the tone for the rest of that thunder-clouded face. Emily searched the girl's features for a sign of comfort or understanding, but none was found. She was young like herself, maybe 14 or 15, and had soft auburn hair neatly tied back in a low ponytail. But her jaw was set, her chin tilted upward, thin lips clamped shut until she spoke. What happened Wednesday night? I don't remember. Emily glanced up at the ceiling and noticed its corners were starting to crumble. She could now see the darkness beyond the edges of the windowless room, night sky perhaps, but it felt emptier than that. Of course you remember. You were there. Now don't play games with me. I already know what you did. There was a fire. Yes, there was a fire. What can you tell me about it? It started in the basement. That's right. Emily sniffed. A smoky scent filled her nostrils. It's funny how the memory of a smell can hang around after the event. Funny how that scent can transport you back through time. For a moment, she saw the blazing basement in her mind's eye, felt the heat of the flames on her face. It started in the basement and spread up the stairs. It spread up the stairs. Emily went to scratch her thigh, but even the slightest touch against her flesh resulted in agony. Yes, that's right. What happened next? Emily dropped her eyes back to the cracked smile in the floor. Even a pair of broken tiles gave more comfort than this girl. Even an imaginary grin was better than the actual company on offer. The floor seemed a long way away now. She could no longer reach the grout with her toe. What happened next? I ran away. Not immediately. You did not run away immediately, did you? Not at first. I stayed in and looked. I watched the flames. What did you see? I could smell it. The wood and fabric and paper all burning. I could smell the smoke and the flames and see the sparks. How did that feel? Emily blinked and then regretted it. The dark closed in around her, shoving itself up against her mind like a crowd on a rush-hour tube train. There was no space in the dark, no escape. A simple blink of the eyes felt like an eternity of blackness. She tried to remember how she had got to this room, what she was doing here. But her only clue was the familiar-looking girl staring back at her, asking questions. Endless questions. How did it feel to watch the fire? It felt good. It felt like an achievement. An achievement? What did you achieve? Emily rubbed her fingers around her irritated eyes without closing them, hoping to generate some tears to stop the dryness. It didn't work. How did the fire start? It wasn't my fault. They knew I had to take a dare. Any dare. They shouldn't have said it. How did the fire start? I climbed in through a broken window. The house had been empty for months. Everyone knew it was empty. And I checked and double-checked. There was no one there. How did the fire start? I used Joe's lighter. I promised I'd give him it back. Where is it? Where's Joe? You used Joe's lighter to do what? To set the fire. To set fire to the newspapers in the basement. I had to blow on them to get them to light properly. I thought I could put it out with a blanket I found. I thought it would be over in minutes. But it wasn't, was it? Did you learn nothing from last time? Last time was a terrible mistake. I checked and double checked the house on Wednesday night, but the fire spread up the stairs into the hallway, into the house. So I ran. Do you know what happened next? The fire brigade had been called, but the house burned to the ground anyway. She'd watched for hours from the park opposite until it was just a pile of rubble and soaking wet junk. Shame coursed through Emily's body. She didn't want to answer any more questions. Do you know that someone died in that fire? A wave of cold sweat ran from the crown of Emily's head down her neck and tingled through her spine and legs. It didn't stop until it reached her bare toes, and then it was followed by a deep, overwhelming nausea. There was nobody in the house. I checked twice. I checked every room. Look at me. Emily tilted her head upwards between her hands towards the other girl, but not far enough that she didn't have to strain her eyes to look up at her face. That face had changed. Emily blinked. When she was finally released from the crushing darkness, she sat up in her chair, eyes wide, mouth open. The green watercolored eyes were still there, but the lids were deeply scarred, and the flesh around them was charred, blackened. Teeth on the bottom jaw were exposed where lower lips were missing. The skin was gone from the cheeks and forehead, and the raw flesh beneath was visible. That soft auburn hair was no longer tied back in a neat low ponytail. It was scorched black, curled like melted plastic, and patchy where clumps had been burned away from the scalp. Who are you? Asked Emily. I dare you to look in the mirror, replied the girl, holding up a small black-handled looking glass. Emily strained herself in her chair, fidgeting to try to get comfortable, but it was impossible. The other girl held up the mirror, and Emily gazed into it. Looking back at her were a pair of green, watercolored eyes, surrounded by scarred lids, burns, and missing flesh. The girl holding the mirror was the same girl that was in the mirror. Who are you? The room began to disintegrate, layers peeling and folding outwards, particles floating off into the darkness, into the distance. The walls crumbled, the floor fell away as the corners, and then the decay spread inwards. The now familiar crack-smiled tiles broke apart, and flames licked up from underneath them. The smell of sulfur intensified, and fire spread across the ceiling. Emily could not stand from her chair. Invisible restraints held her in place as the heat rose around her, and the remains of the room were finally swept away into the infinite inferno stretching in every direction. I am Emily Chester, and I'm very angry with you. I'm going to spend eternity making you pay for your stupid dares. Third story. The title of this story is Tyler's New Journaling Spot by Gunnar Ladd, posted on June 15th, 2021. There's an author's note that says that this story is written from the perspective of a fourth grader. The language and sentence structure reflects this. June 12th, 2021. Dear Diary, I want to go home. There is nothing I want more than to see my family again. I don't like it here. It's cold and dark all the time. The people here are all weird and make me feel very uncomfortable. They kind of just walk around and don't really say much. I haven't heard anyone laugh or try to be funny. I tried telling this one guy a joke, but I don't think he got it. He didn't even smile. This sucks. I miss my mommy and daddy and my brother and sister. June 13th, 2021. Dear Diary, it's almost morning time now. That's why I wrote that it's the 13th. Mommy says that the next day starts at midnight, and I knew that it was past midnight. There's only one window here. All the others have wood boards over them, and you can't see through them. I keep looking out of the one window I can see through. I want to know where I am. I don't remember coming here. I was really sleepy. I'm super happy that the guy from the window grabbed my diary, though. That was very nice of him. He told me his name is Andre. I don't think I know anyone else with that name. Maybe he's not from here. He talks kind of funny, too. He talks like an old, smart guy. It looks like everyone's getting sleepy. Everyone is going to the basement now. Andre told me that when I get tired, I should come to the basement too. He said there's an open bed for me and told me to make sure that I stay away from the window until I go to bed. Good night, diary. June 13th, 2021. Dear Diary, it's nighttime now and I just woke up. I slept really well. I didn't think that I would sleep well, though, because the bed that Andre told me about was just a weird-shaped box with a lid over it. It looked comfier than the ground, though, so I slept in it anyway. Everyone's awake now, and we're back upstairs. I got really thirsty, but the sink didn't have any water in it. I told Andre that the sink must be broken or something, and he said he'd get me something to drink. He gave me this super dark red drink that looked like juice. It was really tasty. It made me feel more awake, and it gave me more energy. June 14th, 2021. Dear Diary, I didn't even realize how late I was staying up tonight, but I saw some pretty colors in the sky super far away when I looked in the window. Everybody started going to the basement again, but Andre stayed upstairs. I was very upset and was crying. I told Andre that I was worried that I didn't get any sleep tonight because I have school in the morning. I asked him if he could drive me to school. I have math tomorrow, and we're doing multiplication tables again. I have to be at school and have energy so that I can beat Leia in our times tables test. She beat me last time, but I'm better at math than she is. I can even do some two-digit problems now. Andre said that I don't have to go to school anymore because this house doesn't go to school. I was pretty upset at first, but then I realized that I can do whatever I want now because I don't have to go to school. I'm going to bed now. Good night, diary. June 14th, 2021. Dear Diary, I just woke up a little bit ago. It feels weird not going to school, but it's like a vacation. It's not a very fun vacation, but I still don't have to go to school, which is so cool. Mommy and Daddy brought me to Disney World last year for vacation. That was a lot more fun. I want to go to Toy Story Mania again. I miss going there. I miss my friends. I like vacation, but I always want my friends to come. They don't come to our vacations, though. There's already 5 of us in the car when we go on trips. I saw some of the people who are old like Mommy and Daddy leave the house tonight. I don't know where they went. I think maybe they went to go drink beer. Mommy says that Daddy does that some nights. Mommy doesn't like it when he does that. He always acts kind of weird when he comes home those nights. Andre gave me some more of that juice. He says I need to drink some at least once a day. That makes me happy because it's really good. June 15th, 2021. Dear Diary, my friends Jake and Sadie are here. The old people who went outside tonight brought them here. I was very excited to see them. They seemed very tired and not happy, though. They kind of look like the rest of the people here. They both have two little red dots on their neck. I told them that they probably got bit by spiders. Sadie told me that it looks like I got bit by two spiders too. That's probably why my neck hurts the day that I got here. I didn't tell anyone about it hurting because Daddy always says, Tyler, you need to be a tough boy or the world will be tough to you. Tonight, when I was looking out the window, I was sad. I still don't know where I am, and I miss my family. Jake and Sadie already went to bed, so I couldn't talk to them. Andre was still awake, though, so I talked to him. I asked Andre if I could go see my family because I miss them. He said that I can't go home because I look very pale and sick, so if I went home, they'd be very worried about me. I told him that I want to get better so that I can see them, and he said that I'm going to have to eat a lot if I want to get better. He said that he'd take me out to eat tomorrow night. I'm very excited to get out of this place and go outside. Good night, diary. June 15th, 2021. Dear Diary, I thought that Jake and Sadie would feel better when they woke up, but they're still acting really weird. They look very sick and are acting too much like everyone else. They move like they're sleepwalking, kinda. Andre took me out to eat. We walked outside and it was super dark out, but I could see pretty well still. I asked him which restaurant we were going to, but he said that we're not going to a restaurant. We're getting a home-cooked meal. We went to some house I have never been to before. Then the craziest thing happened. Andre started floating. He floated up to the upstairs window and then came back down and taught me how to do it. It was actually pretty easy to learn. Now I can float. I'm like a superhero. Andre told me that we just need to ask the person in the room if we can come in because we can't go inside until they tell us we can. He said that the man inside would scream at first, but that's just because everyone's afraid of the dark. He said that if we ask nice enough, he'll let us inside. The man did scream when we floated up to the window, but he calmed down after Andre talked to him a little bit. He asked if he could come in, and the guy in the room said yes. Then I asked him if I could come in, and he said yes to me too. He didn't look very happy about it, though. He had a very straight face and was just staring straight forward. Andre told me to close my eyes and wait a second. When I closed my eyes, I heard a loud thud, but Andre said that it was okay. He told me to keep my eyes closed because the food I was eating was a surprise. He grabbed my arm and walked me forward a few steps. Then he stood behind me and bent my head forward. He told me not to look, but to just bite the food and suck, don't chew. I thought this was kind of weird, but I did it. It was delicious. It tasted like the juice that he gives me, but with something extra in it that made it taste even better. I told him that I wanted to eat that every day. June 16th, 2021. Dear Diary, when we were coming home from the house, I noticed that I do know where the house is. It is the house from across town that Mommy said that no one lived in for years. It doesn't look very nice. Daddy would want to paint it. It's kind of weird that I'm staying in that house, but I guess it's kind of cool. A little while after we got back, even more people showed up. Some more of my friends from school came, the guy who let us eat in his house, and even the principal of the high school. They all had the spider bites on their necks too. Maybe there was an army of spiders attacking anyone who goes out at night. Ugh, that would be really scary. I was very sad tonight. I was happy that I got to eat some really good food, but I was sad that I couldn't see my family. The colors in the skies were really pretty tonight. There was orange and purple all over the sky. I asked Andre to come look at it, but he said that he can't. He said that I shouldn't even be looking at it. He said that I need to make sure that I get down to the basement before the sun comes up. When he says this, I realize that everyone avoided this window when it got close to the morning time. Maybe they just don't like pretty colors. That would be silly, though. I think everyone likes pretty colors. I stayed up late after everyone else went to bed. I was still very sad and felt like being naughty, so I went to check out the window. I wanted to see the sun. When I went to stand in front of the window, my arm started to burn. It was the worst pain ever. It felt like I put my arm in lava. I tried not to cry, but I couldn't help it. Daddy wouldn't be happy with me. I didn't put any more of my body in front of the window after that. I'm never gonna let the sun shine on me again. Nobody woke up, though. They all kept sleeping in their weird boxes with lids shut. My arms felt better now that it's not in the sun anymore, so I'm going to bed. Good night, diary. June 16th, 2021. Dear diary, I really don't like it here anymore. I tried showing my friends from school my cool trick that Andre taught me, but none of them looked like they cared. They said it was cool, but then they all floated too. They aren't fun anymore. I hope they get better soon and stop acting like this. Everyone here acts the same too. No one wants to play with me. I just sit here and draw or read books that I find in the house. I want to go home so that I can be with my family. They'd never act like this. They would play with me and laugh at my jokes too. Even more new people came to the house today. A bunch of people left tonight to go get them, and I don't get why they all like beer so much. Daddy let me try a sip once and I hated it. There were some kids like me, some teenagers, some old people, and some of the old people were dressed up all fancy, like they work at some fancy place. I went out to eat again tonight at a different person's house. It was really, really good. This meal tasted even stronger. I still don't know what it is that I'm eating because Andre won't let me look, but I don't even care. It tastes too good. When we got back from eating, there were even more new people here. I guess everyone at the house had a bunch of friends. Even the mayor of our town was at the house. I said hi to him. It was cool talking to a famous guy, even though he barely talked. June 17th, 2021. Dear Diary, it's very crowded in the house tonight. There must be a bazillion people in this house. It's like Andre is trying to get the whole town to come stay here. This isn't going to be a very good party, though. Everyone is boring, and it seems like no one likes to have fun. Everyone keeps complaining about being starving, and some people that have been here for a while said that they might have to get people from the town next to us when we run out of people in this town. This is going to be the biggest party ever. There's no way they're all going to fit in this house, though. We're going to need more houses for everyone. But Mommy and Daddy and my brother and sister still haven't come yet. That makes me very upset. I sat by myself for a long time because I didn't want to talk to anyone. I'm so happy. Andre came up to me tonight while I was at the window and told me that I get to see my family tomorrow. He said that they were next on the list anyway, and that they're going to bring people from that side of town tomorrow night. He said that he'll get a group of 4 people from the house, 1 for each person at home, not including me because I'm staying here, and go to my house to get my family. He said that my family even invited them to stay for dinner before they come here. Andre told me that I still can't come, though. He said that they need to have grown-up conversations. But my family is still coming tomorrow. I can't wait for my family to get to the party. It will be much more fun with them here. They're going to be so happy to see me, too. I'll finally be happy on this vacation. Good night, diary. We had a last-minute entry from one of our viewers and a close friend of mine. Their username is King, and a link to their Twitch and Discord will be left in the description. I gave them a prompt a while ago. I wanted them to write a story that was a betrayal that seemed obvious, but takes an odd twist at the end. This is what they gave me. I really should have known. The faded smiles, the judgmental eyes. How could I have trusted them? I mean, they were always by my side. They were so loyal, so kind, always ready to help me when I asked for their help, or if I asked them to keep a secret. So why? Why, the one time I try to pay them back for their loyalty, they turn their back to me? I wanted to make them happy. I dropped the knife from my bloody hands as I fell to my knees next to the body. One that belonged to their tormentor since childhood. Thank you very much for listening, and I hope that you enjoyed the stories. If you did, and you enjoyed the narration, please consider giving the video a like and clicking on the author's links in the description and giving the stories a like as well. Subscribe if you would like more content like this. And stay tuned for the bloopers. Cliche shine. Awesome. All right. Well, we got bloopers already. That's fun. Cliches. Why can I not say that word? Cliche. Cliche. Not cliche. Not cliche. Not whatever the fuck I'm trying to say. Cliche. Cliche. All right, we're good. We're good. We got this. We okay. Cliche. Why do I keep wanting to say cliche? That doesn't even make sense. It's not even a fucking word. Cliche. Cliche. Oh, I want to kill myself. All right. Omniscious vision. Ominous. Why? What is wrong with me today? What is wrong with me today? I got past cliche and fucking... I leapt right out of my bed as the fogginess of slept. As the fogginess of slept. Fuck me. I leapt right out of my bed. What is going on? I don't understand. Okay, all right. Something close to remorse crept into her eyes. I know English. I can read. Fuck. I can't even do my own shit right. No, we're good. We're good. Everything's fine. Everything is awesome. Everything is cool when you're part of a team.